After 3 years of experimentation that, while certainly unique and creative, didn't result in any particularly big hits for Flipline Studios, it seems they decided to look back to their last success and just do that again. Thus, we received the second in their long, long line of Gamerias. Papa's Burgeria. So on today's Retrospectiveria, we're going to be taking a look at that game, as well as the 2 Gamerias that followed, and all of the different remakes of each. If you're keeping count, that is a total of 10 games for this one video. I am going to perish. Well, let's not waste any time then. Papa's Burgeria was released on December 6th, 2010. Let's start up a new file and, what? Papa Louie is playable? He was only available on specific sites, but yeah, this was the only time Papa's ever been playable in one of his Gamerias. If you pick him, there's no opening cutscene, and the final customer is Marty, very climactic there. Ignoring the Papa in the room, this game introduced the series staple of having 2 playable workers to choose from, both of whom were customers in the last game. In this case, we have Marty and Rita. Having characters that we've become familiar with as customers become playable was a great move, yet another reason why they're one of the best aspects of the series. The story goes something like this. Marty receives a golden ticket in the mail and follows the map to the newly opened Burgeria, meeting Papa and Roy outside. Marty is excited to see the new restaurant until Papa informs him that he's gonna work there. And that's literally it. Alright, nice. 2 games in and these stories are already getting wacky. First of all, what is this map? How did Marty find the Burgeria with this? Also, Papa Louie sent a golden ticket? Who does he think he is, William Wonkington? This was also the beginning of Papa's, strange recruitment practices. As for the cutscene itself, it's no longer animated, instead being a slideshow. Replacing those nice, fully animated cutscenes with Microsoft PowerPoint 2007 over here was kinda disappointing, but it was inevitable now that we have multiple playable characters. Let's get into the game itself. Well, the tutorial is much better this time. There's actually text that explains what to do instead of just, hey, click this, and then click this. The core Gameria gameplay loop always stays the same, just with a different food and stations in which you prepare it. Unlike Pizzeria, Burgeria only has 3 stations. And one of them is the order station, so there's actually only 2 stations dedicated to making the burgers. This feels pretty weird, because the newer games always have 4, even if they have to tack on the most random possible side dish to reach that number. I feel like if they made Burgeria today, they absolutely would have added a fries station, which they eventually did in Cheeseria. Anyway, once you're done taking a customer's order, you'll head to the grill station. Drag a patty to the grill to start grilling. Customers can order their patties cooked 3 different ways: rare, medium, or well done. Much more streamlined than Pizzeria's 6 possible cook types, which was a good call. You'll have to flip the patty when it's halfway done. The dial shows how long it's been grilling, and the percentages are how much it's cooked on each side. You'll want those to be even. I often forget this, but temperature is also a factor, represented by this thermometer. If you wait too long to serve a patty after you cook it, you'll lose some points. This was probably done to discourage you from just making all the patties at the start of the day. When a patty is done, drag it to this stack to go to the build station. Here we have an assortment of different ingredients that we must drag and drop onto the burger in the right order to make what the customer wants. Something I like here that the later games usually don't give us the luxury of is that we can rearrange ingredients after we place them, with the exception of condiments, which makes sense. Basically, you want to stack them as evenly as possible to get the best score here. After placing the top bun, drag the ticket to serve it to the customer. The game now gives us a combined score from all the stations for each order, which is very nice. It's weird that Pizzeria didn't do that. It's almost impossible to get a perfect score in this game though. I'm pretty sure I only did it like once. And yes, we can now arrange tickets while showing a customer their order. A lot of those first game quirks and annoyances are being shaken off. The stations in this game are very simple, but they have just enough going on to not feel too simple. Especially with the grill station. It seems very basic on the surface, but then it introduces the different grill types which have to be flipped at different times, and you also gotta make sure that temperature doesn't get too low. It works well. The major new addition that Burgeria brings to the table is the upgrade shop. We finally have somewhere to spend all that money we earned from tips, and as such the player rank now has its own points system rather than using tips. Here we can buy a few upgrades to assist with the gameplay, including the introduction of cooking alarms. There are 3 of them, one for each of the rarities. Stick an alarm onto a patty and it'll ring when it's time to flip it, and then again when it's finished. The pop-up is even color-coded to whichever type of grill alarm is going off. I don't know when that would ever be particularly useful, but it is a nice detail. As I've alluded to before, the alarms are absolute must-haves. Sure, it was interesting to go one game without them, it resulted in a unique type of difficulty, but yeah, they were definitely a great addition. Plus, they cost $200 each here, and with no paydays yet, you'll likely go through a good chunk of the game without them anyway. Makes sense with how powerful they are. There's also the doorbell, which notifies you when a customer enters, and the heat lamp, which allows patties to stay warmer for longer so you don't lose points. Besides upgrades, there's also an assortment of furniture and posters for the lobby, which help keep customers entertained to improve their waiting score. There are some fun animations of the customers interacting with them. I'm a big fan of the Papa Louie 1 arcade machine, plus Steak and Jake being referenced both as a poster and on the TV. The shop was an outstanding addition, finally giving tips a purpose, and it's always nice to have more goals to work towards. Burgeria also introduces 11 new customers, bringing the total up to 44. Some very classic characters made their debut here, including Matt and Tony's developer self-inserts. But they're not the only customers based on real people. There's also Mandy, who's based on Tony's wife, Doan, based on one of their roommates from college, a couple more loosely inspired ones, oh, and of course Santa! The graphics are about the same here, but everything's just a little bit cleaner. Burgeria also introduced a new UI, with the station buttons across the bottom of the screen, which feels much more natural. You can tell they're slowly transitioning to the more standardized Gameria look and feel after Pizzeria's first installment weirdness. The criteria for unlocking Papa Louie is the same, getting gold rank on every customer. However, they actually made an incredible change. Customers that already have gold will no longer show up if there's a non-gold customer available. This is exactly what I wanted, and even though there's more customers now making the game longer, it makes unlocking Papa feel so much less annoying. Burgeria took me 17 hours to 100%, slightly longer than Pizzeria's 15, but this change made ranking up customers so much more satisfying. Now how about that difficulty? It's not as frantic as Pizzeria due to the cooking alarms, but it's still fairly challenging, largely thanks to there still being 10 customers per day. I'm noticing in the older games, especially these first two, the difficulty mainly comes from multitasking due to the amount of customers per day. While in the later games, there's less customers, but to balance it out, the preparation process itself is more complex. It's hard to say which is better, but I enjoy the old game's approach. Burgeria probably has the simplest gameplay loop in the series, but it still manages to stay engaging thanks to the sheer amount of customers you have to keep up with. All in all, Papa's Burgeria is a pretty solid sequel. Going into this, I was expecting to not really like it due to how simple it seems on the surface, but once you get further into it, they up the amount of customers, introduce the different grilling times, and yeah, there's more depth than I gave it credit for. The upgrade shop and multiple playable workers were fantastic additions, and the gameplay, while basic, is still enjoyable. Now as for the remakes, Burgeria was both the first to-go game and the first HD game. Basically every version of it is super old. HD came first, being released for tablets on April 26, 2012, only 2 years after the original. So let's check that out now. Papa's Burgeria HD was the first game Flipline released for tablets and for mobile devices in general. And this one really does live up to its title. Though weirdly, it's not consistently called HD. Like yeah, the app icon and blog posts say HD, but the title screen just reads Papa's Burgeria. And there's a trailer on Flipline's YouTube that's clearly for the HD version, but it's titled Papa's Burgeria trailer. That's just a weird thing I noticed that doesn't matter at all. Anyway, besides being adapted for touch controls, the gameplay of Burgeria HD is nearly identical. The only difference I can think of is you now have to tap a patty twice to flip it. That makes it a bit more clunky, but there's not much they could do. You can't exactly hover over something on a touchscreen. It's Papa's Burgeria, but with higher quality graphics and all the new features of 2 years later. Which is a good amount of stuff to be fair. Some new unlockable ingredients, closers, badges, minigames, customizable lobby, hats. It's good, but I just played Burgeria, and this is just that but better and on your iPad. So there's really not going to be too much to say about some of these remakes, especially this one. But what about Papa's Burgeria To Go? This one was released for smartphones on February 21st, 2013 as the first truly portable Gameria. And this series definitely lends itself to mobile well. You're out and about and have nothing to do for a bit, go flip some virtual burgers. I think Flipline realizes that too, considering every single one of these games has a to-go version available. But you can easily tell Burgeria To Go was the first one. Alright, let's pick our character. What are you so happy about? The gameplay here has a lot more changes than HD did since they had to adapt it for a smaller screen. The blog post announcing announcing it even calls this a streamlined version of Burgeria, which I think is pretty apt. I already covered the ticket system during Pizzeria To Go, but the stations here have received plenty of changes. The grill station is smaller, and they removed the percentages and temperature meter. It's just not a factor anymore, definitely simplifies things a bit. But it's the build station that has a completely different layout, bringing the introduction of the To Go game's trademark assembly line system, as I call it. The toppings are all in these bins at the top of the screen, and you have to scroll through them to find the right one. Then you line it up over the burger, and tap the screen to drop it. Tap this button to switch to the patties you've cooked, which you can place in the same way. Almost every To Go game has a station with this mechanic. And it works. It's not bad, but I don't know, I just never prefer it to how things are done in the originals. I know it was the best option for touchscreens, especially with how small phones were back in 2013, but it does kind of feel less genuine, I guess? It doesn't feel like I'm building the burger by hand, it feels like I'm operating a machine. I can sum up the rest of this game in a few sentences. It has the same lackluster graphics and animations I went over in Pizzeria To Go, has most of the features of Burgeria HD except the minigames, and also has like 2 extra unlockable ingredients. All in all, Burgeria To Go is it's fine. You certainly have better options nowadays, but considering this was the first ever Gameria on phones, and was created for more limited hardware, it was pretty good for the time. And for only 99 cents, I mean, you can't complain that much. Now, what's the best way to play Burgeria? Well, HD is pretty much just the Flash version, but with more stuff, so even though I slightly prefer how Flash controls, yeah, it's HD. This will be a pattern for a while. Phew, alright, we're finally through with Burgeria. The next Gameria, released May 20th, 2011, is Papa's Taco Mia. Definitely the most unique title in the series, no aria suffix, and an exclamation mark. Revolutionary stuff. Apparently they wanted to go with Papa's Taqueria, since that's an authentic Spanish word for a taco place, but were worried that English speakers would be confused how to pronounce it. They went with Taco Mia so that the word taco and the ia sound at the end were clear, while also trying to evoke the phrase Mamma Mia, for some reason. I don't know why, but it's a funny title, so sure. While we're on the file select, I want to mention that this is the first game where you could save and load backups of your save file to your computer, which is a very helpful feature. It even gets saved as a special .papa file. That's pretty fun. Flipline just made their own file format. So this time we get to play as Mitch or Maggie. I feel like this game's story is more something Mitch would get up to, so I usually pick him. To celebrate the opening of his 3rd restaurant, Papa is hosting a taco eating contest. And Mitch, in the most Mitch move possible, camps out overnight in a tent to be first in line for a taco eating contest. Mitch competes against Kingsley and James, and we watch as the intense competition goes on all day. But as the other two eventually throw in the towel, Mitch just keeps going. Mitch is crowned the winner and receives his prize, which of course turns out to be a job at the Taco Mia. Ah, you see, Mitch, this is why you read the fine print. Taco Mia once again has only 3 stations, the last game in the series to have that distinction. But I think these ones have more variety and complexity than Burgeria's. After taking an order, we move over to the grill station. Yes, and they call it the grill station despite the fact that it's obviously a stovetop. Drag a pan with meat to the stove to start cooking. The ring around the pan shows how long it's been cooking and when it'll be finished. When it reaches a blue marker, you have to drag the spatula onto the pan to flip it, and when it reaches a red marker, you drag the knife over to cut it. Each of the 4 meat types has a different pattern for when you have to flip and or cut it. For instance, the beef just needs to be flipped once, while the chicken needs to be cut and then flipped. So far, they've added variation to the cooking stations by having customers order different amounts of time to cook for, but I think this is a much more interesting way to do it. When the meat is done cooking, drag the pan into the correct taco shell to send it to the build station. While Pizzeria and Burgeria's equivalent stations just had you dragging and dropping ingredients, this game sees the introduction of Flipline's iconic state-of-the-art physics system. Click and drag a topping above the taco and release to start pouring it. You then move the mouse left and right to spread it evenly across the taco. You can even click to stop pouring and then release to continue, which I didn't even realize was possible until like day 70, so not that practical, but it's nice to have the option. Continue adding the toppings and sauces they ordered until it's done, and then send it off to the customer. An interesting feature in this station is the taco queue, which shows a preview of the tacos coming up next after the one you're currently building. This is actually kinda useful. Why do none of the other games have a feature like this? And those are Taco Mia's stations. I think these are the strongest and most in-depth ones thus far. The different meat types you need to cook in different ways, increased the more fluid and physics-based build station, there's a lot more variety here. Probably due to the more complicated building process, the amount of customers per day has been lowered from 10 to 8. That makes it a bit easier than the previous games, but the slightly more sophisticated gameplay here helps balance it out. Papa's Taco Mia brought with it a ton of new, series staple features. The most notable would probably be the introduction of closers. Closers are special customers who appear as the last customer of each workday, being more picky than anyone else. Basically meaning they have a more difficult grading scale for their food, so it's harder to get a good score on them. Each game has 7 closers who appear in a set order, one for each day of the week. On top of that, the final closer is the closer to close all closers, Jojo the Food Critic. Jojo has an even harder grading system and always orders something different. But if you impress him, he'll award your restaurant with a blue ribbon. The blue ribbon is displayed on the front counter for the next 3 days and causes every customer to give you better tips. We also see the addition of unlockable ingredients. You start the game with only one type of meat and one taco shell, but as you progress you'll unlock new ones, as well as more toppings and sauces. All the ingredients unlock by rank 14, so it doesn't take very long, but it helps make the early game more interesting. This was a great way to ease the player in before making more options available, and is another unlockable to look forward to alongside new customers. The shop is back, and with even more things to buy. Alarms for each of the meat types, extra burners so you have more space on the stove, and even a golden spatula and knife which let you flip and cut twice as fast. Along with some new furniture and posters, you can also buy hats for your worker now. There's 6 of them in total, including the default one, and you can change hats at any time from the pause menu. Getting major Steak and Jake vibes from this. But no longer do you solely need to rely on your tip money to buy upgrades, as Taco Mia introduced the weekly payday system. Every 7 days, you'll receive a set amount of money based on your player rank. So that's nice, but the fact that I guess Papa Louie just didn't pay his workers before this is a little concerning. It's also way too low for Mitch literally working all day 7 days a week, but whatever, I'll leave that one to the game theorists. They've also added badges, which is your standard achievement system. There are 60 badges in total, each rewarding you with a set amount of money when you complete them. Most you'll just get through regular gameplay if you're going for completion anyway. There's nothing you really have to go out of your way to do except wearing the different hats, I guess. Still, achievements are a natural fit for the Gameria series, and it gives you even more goals to work towards. As for some smaller changes, Taco Mia introduced the feature where customers with a higher rank, in addition to giving higher tips, will also place and receive their order faster. The ordering speed has always been very slow, which is on purpose since you have to take that time into account with your multitasking, but I felt it kinda slowed the pace of the game. Incorporating the solution into the customer rank system was a pretty clever move, and it makes some amount of sense. If a customer has been to the restaurant many times, they're probably gonna say their usual order faster. I also like how they expanded the start of day screen to show the entire street around the restaurant. You can see the first 2 customers who will come in that day, occasionally the pizzeria car drives by, and the billboard in the background changes. The 2 customers you see can actually help you to prepare their meats ahead of time if you memorize their orders, or just check the customer's menu, which is a great way to reward truly dedicated Gameria gamers. For the customers themselves, Taco Mia increases the total to 54. Most of the debutants are introduced as closers, and we even have 2 customers, Robbie and Alan, who were absent in Burgeria, return as closers with new designs. And I think that's everything new. That is a pretty impressive list of features that I really couldn't imagine the series without now, and each and every one of them helps improve the game in some way. Closers, the food critic, unlockable ingredients, and badges especially are excellent additions that really help elevate the Gameria formula. Thanks to all those new features and improvements, along with how solid the core gameplay is, I think Taco Mia is the best one so far. But man, it kinda felt like a chore to get through due to how long it is. This one took me 19 hours to 100%. 15, 17, now 19. These games are only getting longer, and they're starting to feel like even more of a slog to complete. So yeah, as long as you don't try to finish it, Papa's Taco Mia is a pretty good time. Compared to Burgeria, Taco Mia took a long time to get the remake treatment, but eventually, on June 27th, 2016, we received Papa's Taco Mia HD, being the 5th HD game overall. But as we've seen with Pizzeria HD, maybe waiting a while is for the best, because then they get to add all the modern features to bring new life to an older game. And yeah, I would say Taco Mia HD is very similar to Pizzeria HD in terms of how upgraded it is and its set of features. There's a couple control changes here. Instead of dragging in the build station, you select a topping and and it'll automatically snap to above the taco. Then slide your finger left and right to pour it. Again, feels slightly worse than the Flash version, but it works just fine. Apart from that and some new ingredients, the original stations are basically identical. However, this is interesting because Takomiya HD is the first remake in the series to add an entirely new station. Introducing the Chip Station. Customers will now order a bowl of chips and a dip along with their taco. Select the chip type that was ordered and press the green button to pour it. To get the best score, you want to pour when the meter is in the center, on the star. Then do the same for the dip. It's a very simple one, but nonetheless an entirely new station that fits into the game really well, and makes Takomiya HD stand out much more than the other remakes. I don't try to play the remakes all the way through for these videos because that would just take way too much time, but I actually finished Takomiya HD back when it came out, and still have my save file. I guess that shows you how good this one is. 13-year-old me probably had something better he could be doing, but decided to play through the funny taco game on his iPad instead, and not even for content like I do now. One of the things that always stuck with me was, of course, how weird and unique some of the holiday ingredients were. Like, for Maple Mornings, the holiday meat is an egg, and the shell is just a waffle. That's how you know this is a truly modern Gameria, wacky ingredients. But yeah, Takomiya HD is a great remake. It's got the usual treatment of improving the visuals and adding plenty of modern features, but on top of that has the brand new Chip Station, which, while by far one of the simplest in the series, is still a good and especially unique addition. Papa's Takomiya To Go was released on March 21st, 2017, also being the 5th To Go game overall. Being released 1 year after HD, it's very similar to that in terms of gameplay and feature set, including the return of the Chip Station. It's interesting to see this have so many features I think of as modern, but still clearly running on the same old engine as Burgeria To Go. Being adapted for a smaller screen, some changes to the stations were necessary, of course. The grill station has only 3 burners. You first tap one of them, then select a meat to start cooking. And once you get a bunch of shells, you'll have to swipe through to see them all. The build station has gotten the assembly line treatment as seen in Burgeria To Go. Once you've centered the ingredient you want, tap the taco to begin pouring and slide it left and right to spread across. Again, it works perfectly fine, but I don't think it's as enjoyable as the way Flash or even HD played. The chip station has a different layout and meter, but is basically unchanged otherwise. Besides that, as well as a few different ingredients and holidays, it's very similar to HD overall, just on a smaller screen with worse graphics. Unless you're a really dedicated fan, there's not much of a reason to play To Go over HD if you have access to that, besides better portability of course. So in terms of which version of Takomiya is the best one, yeah, I think you know the drill by now, it's HD. The HD versions just have the benefit of the core gameplay experience being very similar to the original Flash versions, but made more recently so they have more stuff. I know it sounds kinda shallow, but since all these games are so similar to each other, I feel like having more features is like 90% of what makes one better than another. Though you definitely can prefer the gameplay of how each food is prepared over others. Speaking of, we finally get to move on. Next up, released on August 5th, 2011, it's Papa's Freezeria. I think it's not a stretch to say this may just be the most popular Gameria, and it's easy to see why. The sweet Gamerias always seem to be some of the most popular, and this was the very first one. The workers this time are Alberto and Penny. The story is as follows. Penny's excited about her new summer job working at Papa's newly built Freezeria, located on the tropical and remote Calypso Island. I'm not sure exactly why Papa thought this was a good location. It literally has a population of 12, but whatever. The worker's manual promises stress-free work, great wages, and lots of tips, though workers are responsible for all shop upgrades. Papa shows Penny around the restaurant before he has to take off, probably on another of his adventures. Penny's looking forward to a quiet and relaxing job, until suddenly she spots a cruise ship, the SS Louie, carrying all of Papa's wacky customers to the island. Oh no! I love how this is one of the very few intro stories in which the worker actually willingly applies for the job. The only other ones I can think of are Donuteria, Mocharia, and Cluckeria, and in all of them something unexpected ends up happening afterwards. These guys really can't catch a break. I want to start off with the presentation this time, because Papa's Freezeria absolutely nails its tropical atmosphere. Calypso Island is a really unique and fun setting for a Gameria. It stands out a ton ton from your Tastyvilles, Burger Bergs, and Taco Dales. Yes, they're all actually called that. You may have noticed that I didn't mention the music during Burgeria and Takomiya, and that's because it was literally just the exact same as Pizzeria's, which was really lame. Freezeria introduced the series tradition of changing up the music for each new game, and this was the perfect place to start. Even if you're indoors for 99% of the game, you can still tell you're on a tropical island thanks to the music. I like it, very nice and catchy, even if it's still short, repetitive loops. Even the new customers fit with the tropical theming. You got Kahuna and Gremmy as the surfer dudes, Captain Corey, Utah, all very memorable characters. The tropical vibe gives Freezeria such a strong identity, and it fits perfectly with the food they chose to center it around. The food, of course, being ice cream this time, specifically a unique mix Flipline calls a freezer sundae of a concrete and a traditional sundae. After taking an order, we start at the build station. You begin by choosing the cup size for the sundae, either small, medium, or large. Then you pour ice cream into the cup by pressing the green button when the meter is in the center. If you're off center, you'll end up adding either too little or too much. Next, you select the mixable and then the syrup the customer ordered, pouring each using the same meter as before. If you time the meter very well, some coins will pop out which give you bonus tip money, though only up to a certain amount per day to prevent you from grinding tips by just pouring ice cream and throwing it out immediately. After you're done building the sundae, it's sent over to the mix station. Drag it to one of the blenders to start mixing. Every Gameria needs one of these stations where you have to wait for something, and obviously cooking wouldn't make sense for ice cream, so blending was a pretty smart way to do it. There are 3 different blending types, chunky, regular, and smooth, which take different amounts of time to mix, in a similar vein to Burgeria's rarities. There's nothing you have to do when it's halfway done here though. Just wait until the sundae is blended to the customer's preference, then drag it to the topping track to send it to the top station. This is where we add toppings in the order shown on the ticket. Every sundae has some kind of whipped cream first, then any combination of syrups, pourable, and placeable toppings. The top station has similar mechanics to Takomiya's build station, but with the addition of these droppable toppings, which you simply click and drag above the sundae and then release to drop them. This is a great continuation of Takomiya's physics-based mechanics, and the variety of topping types and the new dessert theming makes it feel fresh. We've got some fun flip-line versions of real-life brands, your Yum-N-M's, Creamy-O's, and Nutty Butter Cups. There's also the Gummy Onions, a nice callback to the enemies from When Pizzas Attack. And, fun fact, they were canonically petitioned by SargeFan to be added to the menu. They just needed to make sure he could still order something onion-related. Anyway, click the finish button to present the order when you're done, with this being one of the very few Gamerias in which the customers are actually shown eating their food. Usually they judge it just by looking at it. Incredible stuff. The stations this time around are all really good, and we're back to 4 of them, so that helps the gameplay loop feel more substantial. And as usual, elements like the different cup sizes and blend times are introduced later on, so they do a good job at easing players into the game before adding more variation. Let's look at the shop, starting with upgrades. You've got the classic doorbell and alarms for each blend type, the returning hats from Takomiya, an upgrade that automatically pours ice cream perfectly in the build station, taking out the first step. Freezeria also introduces a new type of upgrade, boosters. Once you've bought one, you can hold the boost button to make the sundae blend faster. But clearly for their first appearance, Flipline didn't want them to be too overpowered, so they implemented a cooldown mechanic. There's a needle that goes up as you hold down the boost, going from green to yellow to red, and if it reaches the end, it'll overheat. If you let a blender overheat, it'll become unusable until the needle goes all the way back down, which takes a long time, so you really need to be careful not to overdo it. This and its HD counterpart are the only games where the booster works like this, and I think this might be a hot take, but I actually kinda like this. It adds an interesting element of risk, seeing how far you can push it without overheating. It opens the door for interesting strategies, like when you need to mix a sundae fast, you can move it to a different blender and continue boosting there before it overheats. I wasn't expecting this, but I actually prefer it to the future game's simplified approach where you can just hold the button for as long as you want. Anything that brings more depth to these games is only a positive, I think. Compared to Takomiya's absolute barrage of new mainstay features, Freezeria really only has one, that being a fully customizable lobby. In the previous entries, when you'd buy a furniture item from the shop, it would automatically be placed in a predetermined position. Now, the player has complete control of where to place them and can customize the lobby however they want. Coupled with this, the shop has been divided into the upgrade shop and furniture shop, with the latter having a ton of new posters, furniture items, and newly added wallpaper and flooring to completely change the look of the room. In the decorate lobby menu, you can open your inventory to see all the furniture items you own, select one, and then click where you want it to be placed. There are 3 rows where you can place furniture on the floor, and nearly the entire wall can be decorated with posters, so there are a ton of possibilities. Each furniture item and poster has a different effect. Most just improve the weighting score, but a few have more unique properties, such as increasing your score when using a specific topping. One of my favorites is the Romano painting, which gives you better tips from members of the Romano family. That's pretty funny. I thought the JoJo poster would similarly have an effect on JoJo, but it seems like that wasn't implemented till next game. The interface is very simple and easy to use, and designing your own lobby is a fun diversion from the main gameplay. Though I do tend to just fill up every possible space since that gives the most points, despite how ridiculous it looks. I wish there was a way to organize your inventory or remove all the items instantly, but now I'm just listing features that were added in later games, so no point in complaining now. Lobby customization is a great addition, though it is one of the first that doesn't really affect the core game that much. It's kinda just an extra thing you can do on the side that gives a few score benefits. But it's always nice to have more options and things to do in a Gameria. A criticism I do have with both this game and the last one is that you run out of new ingredients to unlock too soon. I feel like they either needed to add more or spread them out more across the ranks, because it starts to feel very samey towards the late game with less new things to unlock. Freezeria took me 23 hours to 100%. A sizable increase from Takomiya, definitely took a lot to get through, but it does feel good to finally be done. Though this was the last game where you need to get all the gold ranks to unlock Papa Louie, so maybe the later ones won't be quite as long? We'll just have to wait and see. In a lot of ways, Papa's Freezeria is a breath of fresh air following the previous 3 installments, and of the 4, easily my favorite so far. The gameplay loop is fun and engaging, it has an incredibly memorable and unique setting along with its tropical atmosphere, the customizable lobby and boost button were really good additions. This is a great Gameria, especially for being only the 4th one. You can absolutely tell why it became a fan favorite, so now let's see if its remakes live up to that status as well. Similar to how Burgeria To Go and HD were both the first of their kind, Freezerias were both the second. So we're back to old territory, though not quite as prehistoric gamer this time. First up, released October 30th, 2013, was Papa's Freezeria HD. This is very much in line with other early HD versions. It's the same exact game you know, but with more stuff. Station-wise, it's nearly identical to the Flash version. The only difference would be the control changes in the top station, which I went over in Takomiya HD. New ingredients and customers to unlock are always nice, they effectively doubled the amount of options in the build station here. There's a couple of notable added features, like minigames, clothing, and custom workers. But yeah, out of all the Papa's Freezeria HDs I've seen, this has gotta be one of the most Papa's Freezeria but in HD of them all. Exact same verdict as Burgeria HD for this one, it's just the same game again, but more. What else is there to say? Moving on, February 27th, 2014 saw the release of Papa's Freezeria To Go. Now this one I'm a bit more familiar with, as similar to Takomiya HD, I actually finished this game when I was a kid. It was kinda my go-to to go for a while. I remember chipping away at it in the car or whenever I had nothing else to do. One of the main things I remember about it was that it has a ton of ingredients to unlock, especially for a to-go game from its time. I thought Freezeria could have used a few more ingredients to keep things interesting visually, and these remakes have certainly been delivering that in spades. As expected, controls and layout have been adjusted. In the build station, the meter was moved to the left side of the screen and has a much bigger button for easy tapping. When it's time to select a mixable and syrup, a whole screen comes down showing the wide variety to choose from. The mix station is the same, until you get the upgrades. The boosters are now simple buttons that can no longer overheat, and the alarms have been adjusted to act more like the ones from Burgeria. Instead of pushing a button to select one, you now drag the alarm to the top of the blender to attach it. In the top station, adding the whipped cream is now its own step you have to do first. After that, add the rest in the standard to-go station format. This should look familiar by now. There's a button to switch between pourable and placeable toppings. For the placeables, you'll want to drag the bin to above where you want it to go, and then tap to drop it. They translated Freezeria's gameplay to the mobile format quite well, but as always, I still prefer how the original feels. I'm sorry. But for playing on the go, it does the job well. Being one of the earliest to-go games, it is lacking in terms of features. Basically everything it has was already there in the Flash original, which is pretty rare for these remakes. In fact, it's missing the customizable lobby, which was the original's big new feature. Kinda wacky that there exists a version of Freezeria without it. Combined with only 6 customers appearing per day, the lowest in the series, this certainly is a more streamlined take on Freezeria. Here's an interesting tidbit. Months after its release, in November 2014, Freezeria To Go received an update adding the debutants from the recently released Papa's Donuteria to the game. I find this significant because, as far as I know, this is the only time Flipline has ever updated a Gameria to add new content post-launch. You'd think they do this more often, but they usually just leave them as they are, with updates only happening for bug fixes. It was only 5 new customers, nothing crazy, but it's interesting they were added at all. Maybe they did this because of how successful this game in particular has been. It reached the top 10 on the App Store shortly after release, and continued to pop up in the charts for years following that, sometimes to Flipline's confusion. It's still at number 8 on the top paid apps as I'm writing this, which just goes to show how popular Freezeria is. And Freezeria To Go is a solid way to experience this fan favorite on the go. It may be lacking in features, but it certainly isn't in terms of customers and ingredients to unlock, which do help keep things interesting to some extent. But we're actually not done with Freezeria, as there's yet another remake to discuss. Jumping way ahead to March 31st, 2023, Papa's Freezeria Deluxe was released as a standalone PC game through Steam. This was the first game Flipline released on Steam, and for PC in general since Papa's Scooperia in 2018, 5 years prior. I was super excited for this game for that very reason. It felt like an eternity since Flipline did anything besides mobile games. Releasing games on Steam opens the door for so many possibilities, games that would be difficult to do on mobile, not just Gamerias! Now, are they actually gonna follow through on any of those possibilities? Yeah, probably not, but I can dream, okay? Freezeria Deluxe is an interesting game to have to review now, since, as you may know, I played through the entire game live on stream after it came out. I had a ton of fun there, but talking with chat definitely helps make these games more entertaining. So, Freezeria Deluxe is essentially meant to be a definitive version of Papa's Freezeria, with all the modern features of the latest entries in the series, and I think it delivers on that really well. Though, let me get my small gripes out of the way first. The only problem I have is that a couple things feel simplified compared to the original Flash version. Deluxe adopts the blending boosters from To Go, the ones that don't overheat. I've already gone over how I prefer the more strategic boosters from Flash in HD, and maybe if they let you boost more before it overheats and decrease the cooldown timer when it does, I think it could have fit in without being annoying for most players. Deluxe also has 7 customers per day, the standard nowadays, and that's more than To Go's 6, but still less than Flash's 8. These factors definitely make Deluxe a bit easier and more simplistic than the original. I prefer when these games are more frantic, necessitating a bit more multitasking. And that's not to say the original was a hard game or anything, it's not, it just required like a tiny bit more brain energy than this one. And this is less related, but the lobby only has 2 rows for furniture rather than 3, which gives you less space to customize. These aren't big problems, like, at all, but this is Freezeria Deluxe, and these are things that were in the Flash version, but are kinda lacking here. Yeah, it's easy to tell Deluxe was built on a modified version of the modern To Go engine. Some text in the instructions even still says tap rather than click, literally unplayable. And also, customers no longer eat their sundae when you serve it to them, they just look at it like every other game. Say it with me this time, literally unplayable. Now for the good stuff. Freezeria Deluxe is the first Gameria remake to actually change the game's story. See, Papa's Cluckeria introduced this feature called Breaking News, where over the course of the game you'd occasionally see these cutscenes showing what's happening in the story in the form of news broadcasts. And Flipline, as they are wont to do, decided to incorporate this feature into their next game as well. Freezeria Deluxe spoilers coming up, in case you really want to play the game for like 30 hours to find out the lore. So the opening cutscene is the same, but there's a little added bit at the end after all the customers arrive on the island, showing Papa departing on the SS Louie on his own. Later, the SS Louie goes missing, and Papa becomes lost at sea due to a hurricane, named after Radley Maddish, nice touch, kickstarting a search effort to find him. Eventually, he's found and rescued from the stranded ship, but the damages to the SS Louie prove to be too expensive. Papa decides to host a fundraiser to pay for the repairs, because Mr. Owns 17 extremely successful restaurants doesn't have enough money, apparently. Thus begins the Volcano Gala, which also acts as the final holiday in the game. The gala is a huge success, raking in over $100,000, even allowing the creation of these underwater taxis for customers to freely travel between Calypso and the mainland, themed after Guppy Guard Express, that's a crazy deep cut, and the amount on the check is Freezeria HD's release date, lots of neat references here. I really like the added story and breaking news cutscenes, they're a fun reward to look forward to, I just wish they were a little more frequent. Don't worry, I'll touch on that more when I review Cluckeria from the comfort of my retirement home. In terms of how the stations play, Deluxe is closest to the original Flash version, which is good. The ticket system has been restored to the Flash and HD style, which, I mean, yeah, they were probably going to do that anyway, but it had been 5 years since they used it last. It's nice to see it back. The build and mix stations are essentially exactly as you remember, well, besides the blending boosters, but I really need to shut up about those already. In the top station, you add the whipped cream first, to go style, and then you have 3 different trays with your syrups, shakers, and drops you can swap between using these buttons. Adding toppings works just like in the Flash version, and once you're done, simply drag the ticket to the holder, and you're golden. But now, here's a small but incredible quality of life feature. They added keyboard shortcuts. Pressing the 1 through 4 keys lets you instantly switch to any of the stations. The spacebar toggles between the trays in the build station, and the S key shows your current special recipe. Those are the most useful, but there's a few more too, for the pause and settings menu, or for switching between stations left and right. This sounds incredibly minor, and like, it is, but it also just feels so good to use. The time you save not having to go down and click the station buttons is incredibly negligible. But if you use the shortcuts well, it makes you feel like a Gameria god. I'm shocked Flipline never thought of this for any of their previous games on PC. It feels so natural and fits perfectly with this kind of gameplay. They're not necessary at all to enjoy the game, but if you ever feel like being really cool, you can use them and they work amazingly. Fantastic addition. There are plenty of other things to note, which I'll do briefly. Deluxe has both the dining room and delivery phone, alternating between them each day. The stickers are also incorporated with Steam achievements, which is always nice to see. The return of some mini-games that haven't been seen in a while, like Papa's Raceway, Customer Cravings, and the GOAT Breakfast Blast. And visually, it looks great for a Gameria. Very high quality stuff, more HD than Freezeria HD. Overall, Papa's Freezeria Deluxe is amazing, and I'm just really happy that it exists. An excellent remake of a fan favorite packed with tons of content and all the modern features the series is known for now. I feel like, at this point in time, Freezeria Deluxe is basically the definitive Gameria. If you had to have just one, I think it might be this one. Being on Steam is a huge plus. Like, wow, that's where actual video games are. And just like actual video games, you have to buy it for a whopping $5.99 in this case. That is a bit more than the modern to-go games at $1.99, which are pretty similar to Deluxe, but I think that's a good price for what you get here. Dude, it's $6, just buy it. Even though most of them are old, all versions of Freezeria are pretty good. You can't really go wrong with any of them, and they're all on different platforms, so they each have their purpose. But as for the best one, yeah, there is an obvious choice here. It's Deluxe. Even with my few minor gripes, I can't deny that it's easily the best way to play Freezeria, and I'd highly recommend it for that reason. And with that, we're finally done here. Man, that was a lot. Quite an ordeal, a true test of patience and persistence. I played roughly 65 hours of Gamerias just to make this video. So if you've made it this far, I think I've earned the right to say this, you should like and subscribe. Just looking at the 3 Flash games we mainly focused on, you can definitely see how Flipline improved and iterated on the series formula, with each game being better than the last. But after all that, I kinda don't want to look at another Gameria for a little bit. Luckily for me, there was actually another game Flipline released between Burgeria and Takomiya that I didn't mention. And after Freezeria, that game even got a sequel. Yes, what I dubbed as their experimental era may be over, but Flipline wasn't quite into their only Papa era yet. So tune in next time on Papa's Retrospectiveria, where we'll be taking a look at Cactus McCoy and the Curse of Thorns and its sequel.